World Cargo International, the experts in shipping to the Caribbean, with weekly sailings to Kingston, Jamaica, and fortnightly sailings to Trinidad, Barbados, Dominica, St. Lucia, and more. We can ship almost anything from personal effects to excess baggage to cars and vans and plant machinery. We can even supply containers and barrels direct to your home address. And collection is simple too. We simply come to you. World Cargo International, taking the hassle out of shipping. Pop in and see us at 55A Princess Street, Luton, LU1 580. Call us on 01582 733 711 or see us online at worldcargoint.com.
Wow, a very good afternoon to you all, our listeners out there. I just want to welcome you all and thanking you for taking the time to join us on Empower Hour. Empower Hour is brought to you by Pamtengo Radio. It's sponsored by World Cargo International. And the aim of the program is to connect with the community, what is happening in the community, any news, and also from beyond our community around Luton, Bedfordshire, anything that is happening that can connect to our own community, any concerns that we have, we invite guests from different times, from different backgrounds, different professions, to come and speak to us about things that matter in our lives. So hence today I have the lovely Tracy.
Hey.
Tracy is from the Stroke Association. I'm going to get her to come and introduce herself properly in a few minutes. I've also got Karen Hebert from the Keech Hospice. Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm just recovering from COVID, actually. So I'm a little bit, not too well, but I'm okay.
Oh, bless. I think we all thought that COVID has gone, but it's on the increase now. There's high numbers. And I keep reminding people that, look, even though we're out of the lockdown, it doesn't mean that the disease is gone. It's still out there, and people still need to continue taking those measures to control, just to keep safe. As we were doing when it started in the beginning. So I hope people will carry on with all the measures that were in place before, and hopefully now we have the vaccines, so it makes it much easier and much manageable. I hope you feel better soon, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Tracy, if you just want to introduce yourself, your role in your business, and also just a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so hi, I'm Tracy. So I work for the Stroke Association as an engagement officer, which sounds very grand.
It does indeed. What does that mean?
The reality is that it's a lot of hard work. And what I'm doing is improving awareness, improving services for stroke survivors in local communities. I have quite a large part of the east of England that I cover, which includes Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire, Milton Keynes, West Essex. So it's quite a big patch, and it's a very big job. But I've been with the organisation since last October. Interestingly, before that, I worked in palliative care, which is where Karen works now. And really, really, really enjoy it. Have learnt loads and just meet the most amazing people and such diversity of people as well. So I absolutely love my job. No 2 days are the same.
I can understand it is a big job that you do, because I can imagine the area geographically which you have to cover. It's quite a big role to take on, and it's quite demanding. I see that.
Yeah, it's just very rewarding though. It's like, if we can manage to get the message out to only one person a day about how we can help them and about the services we provide, and also about awareness of what to do if a stroke happens, any of those things, it's so worthwhile.
Absolutely. Hence why I have you ladies here today, so that we put out the word out there and people can know where to reach you if ever they're in a situation where they need your services. Karen, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello. Well, a bit like Tracy, I'm relatively new to this role at Keech. My long-winded title is Compassionate Communities Coordinator. I've been in post since February last year and came into the role with no healthcare background at all. So it's been a huge learning curve for me. But like Tracy, no 2 days are the same. And it's great to get out and about to either meet people face to face or like we are today on a Zoom conversation. When I say compassionate communities, though, probably people are thinking, what on earth does that mean?
Yes.
Well, basically, in very, very simple terms, it's about reconnecting with the communities and the good work that's already going on that goes under the radar, and recognizing that a lot more than we do. And I suppose my job as well involves encouraging people to have those all important conversations before they are diagnosed with a life-limiting illness, so that people know what their choices are, what's available to them, and what help there is. So it's a challenging subject because talking about that sort of thing, loss and bereavement, death and dying, is viewed as quite a taboo subject and carries a lot of stigma. So that's
it is, isn't it? I must say, from where I come from, those are things you just don't come on the table while people are having dinner and you start talking about issues like that. It's something that is always kept private, and it's something that I think we need to start educating our people out there that these are conversations we should have. Not wait until the last minute and not have the conversations at all.
Yeah, and it's about upskilling people, I think, as well, Lady Munya, because a lot of people don't have the confidence or the knowledge to know what to say or how to say things to people. And it is a really important subject matter that I'm trying to get the word out there about. And these sort of conversations are excellent because it introduces a wider audience. A listening audience, and as I say, I can go on a little bit more to explain in a bit more detail what's available on offer to help people and how I can be contacted. So that will be excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll come to that in a short while. I'll come back to you, Tracy. You work for the Stroke Association, and you've just given us a brief introduction of what your job entails. This is going out there in the community, spreading the word and trying to educate people of the matters that can be really, really life-threatening to somebody if ever they're going to have a stroke. Let's start with what is a stroke.
Okay, so we often we're familiar with the term a heart attack. I think we kind of all know what that is in society, but the easiest way to explain a stroke is a brain attack. So similar kind of thing. It's a malfunction. So it happens when the blood supply to the brain is either blocked or a bleed on the brain, which interrupts the blood flow to the brain and causes a varying degree of damage, and can then cause a varying degree of disability for somebody who survives a stroke. It's very, very common. A stroke happens every 5 minutes somewhere in the UK, and about 1.6 million people in the UK are survivors of a stroke and are living with disabilities that they can cause. So it's what we're finding more and more is that people aren't accessing services after a stroke. And also that they can have what we call a TIA, which is a mini stroke almost, which can go a little bit under the radar, a little bit unnoticed, but is normally an indication of something that's not quite right, and something that's yet more serious to come. So it's about just making sure that people don't ignore symptoms, don't ignore changes to their bodies that are a bit unexplainable, and whether that be headaches, unusual episodes, little bit of feeling tingling sensations in hands and fingers, and just basically that we make sure that people are understanding what might be happening to them.
Okay, so what you've just mentioned, is this what you say, the warning signs of somebody potentially having a stroke?
Yeah, and in some people that's a key factor, because some people do have mini strokes and they do have those warning signs. Other people may not. And so these strokes will happen, and they are very unexpected and very indiscriminate as well. They can leave people with quite severe physical disability in terms of paralysis, speech impediment, cognitive difficulties in terms of memory, and remembering how to read or write, and just basically things that change their lifestyle, can change lifestyles forever. So we, as the Stroke Association, are the biggest stroke charity in the UK, and we are around to help. One of our strap lines is Life After Stroke, so help stroke survivors to live a fulfilled life despite their disabilities, and to do the kind of work that I do, which is making people aware of what the risk factors are, and the lifestyle changes that you can make that might help to support healthy living, and stroke potentially not being an issue for everybody.
Okay, so that is the impact of a stroke. If somebody has a stroke, it's going to change their life completely. Is
Absolutely.
there cases where somebody's had a stroke and then they go on to make a full recovery and then go back to living their normal life? Or
Absolutely, and it's really, really interesting. If you go onto YouTube and you search for Stroke Association, there's loads of videos of stroke survivors that you can see, and there's one guy that always comes to my mind, and I'm going to warn you now, it's quite a sad story with a good ending. But he had a stroke in his early 30s, and had quite severe.
hang on a second. So I've always associated people having a heart attack and strokes to be mainly something that happens in old people. I've obviously got that wrong, haven't I?
Yeah, and maybe and that's an excellent point, because I should have mentioned that before, because that there is even childhood stroke is quite common.
Really?
Around 400 children a year do have a stroke, and that can be for different reasons. But more and more we're realizing that people are having strokes younger, and we call that a working age stroke. So anyone kind of between those working ages of 18 right up to 65, and there's quite a high percentage of people that have strokes in younger years. It's not an older person's disease, if you like, or
yeah, I'm glad we've clarified that, because I'm sure I'm not the only one out there who's been thinking this is something that only happens in older people.
Absolutely, and I think what a lot of people do as well is, if they are older and experience a stroke, and I've heard it said, it's almost like it's an acceptance of old age, and you don't have to do anything about it, which is really scary, because
Yes,
we are finding that there is that what we call secondary and tertiary, so second and third strokes are becoming more and more common because people aren't accessing proper medical advice and care after their first stroke. So I'm going to be telling you a little bit about how to recognise a stroke. But it's really important to access the right kind of care to help to rebuild your resistance towards having subsequent strokes.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the story that you was going to tell us before I
Oh,
interrupted
yeah.
you.
So
Sorry.
the guy, yes, the guy. Do you know what? I can't recall his name right now, but he had a stroke in his early 30s, had really strong paralysis and speech impediment, and decided quite early in his recovery that he wanted to take his own life. He wasn't successful with that because his girlfriend found him and he was fine. And then what happened was he decided that he was going to fight it. And the way to rebuild yourself after a stroke is what we call neuroplasticity. So it's doing things repetitively to help rebuild the memory in your brain to do something. And this guy was quite a good basketball player, so he spent hours and minutes and days bouncing a basketball against a wall until he could catch it properly with two hands.
Wow.
And he did that, and then he went on to kind of do other things. And all the time you're doing this, your brain is what we call rewiring. So it's finding a way around the part of the brain that's damaged to kind of connect with the other parts and get back to some kind of normality. And in this particular video, he runs a marathon.
Wow.
After leg paralysis, and he cycles, and his children adore him. That he subsequently went on to get married and have children. Plays the piano, so it's just like it is a dark story, but it's also a really uplifting story. And there are lots of stories or lots of videos of stroke survivors that you can see like that. It's not impossible.
It is actually an inspiring story for somebody who's had a stroke and they're in that range of ages. Because as you described that they wanted to take their life, so I'm thinking when they had the stroke, to them everything was finished. There was no more for them to live for.
Absolutely, and it can be a very dark time when you go from one day being very active and normal and living your life to the next day having those those severe symptoms. And everybody's individual. Everybody can have completely different outcomes from having a stroke. I met a lady the other day who just suffers with severe fatigue. I say just, it's and by severe fatigue I mean it's beyond what we call tired,
Yeah.
it's beyond what us having a late night out and a hangover maybe, but it's beyond that. But those were the only symptoms that she was still suffering with, but they were quite life limiting for her. So there's lots of different things, and everyone's so individual, but there is, with support and help and information and guidance, you can, and probably some sheer determination, you can.
Yes, you have to have that will inside you to go back again to be the same person you were. Although I might say that maybe perhaps sometimes it doesn't really quite work out for you to go back to exactly what you were before.
No, that can happen, and it is about kind of adjustment and acceptance. We talk a lot about adjustment and acceptance, and learning to live a full life in a slightly different way. But that can take support. That can take that you need to know where to access information and how to access help.
Yeah. On top of that, how do I recognize, like if I've got a partner, a family member who perhaps is having a stroke, how do I recognize that somebody is having a stroke, and what do I do? To be honest,
Okay, so about 10 years ago, I think it was, that the NHS and the Stroke Association did a campaign together called Fast. I don't know if you remember the adverts that were on the TV at the time. And every now and again they crop up again, and basically it was just an advert, and using the word fast to remember what you should look for if somebody's having like a funny episode or a funny turn in front of you. So the F is for face. So look whether the person it has obviously got a droop in their face, or whether their mouth or eye is drooped, whether they can smile. So you can ask them whether they can smile, and if they can't, then that's the paralysis of the face. Arm is for weakness, so you always would ask the person to raise both arms. Stroke can very often attack one half of the brain or one side of the brain, which is why stroke is quite well known for having one-sided paralysis. So that person might only be able to lift one arm and not the other. So that's where that would be another key indicator. Speech, if the person is sounding quite slurred and can't get their words out, then that is another thing that you would look out for. And the T is for time. And if you recognise that somebody has shown all or just even some of these symptoms, it doesn't have to be all three. You just need to phone 999 straight away. It's classed as a medical emergency, and you would just need to say over the phone that you suspect a stroke.
Okay, so fast. That's facial expression. If they can raise their arms, S for speech, and of course T for time. So it is very crucial when you recognize those things in your partner or a family member to act swiftly. It can make a big difference in how everything all turns out, isn't it?
It can do, because I mean that medical profession develops all the time, doesn't it? And there are now there are clot busting drugs that can be administered to some patients that could alleviate the severity of symptoms in the future. And I must stress that's not for everybody, but anybody that does qualify, there is that. So time is of the essence, because those drugs can only be administered within 4 hours of the stroke happening. So it's really, really quite key to react quite quickly.
Right. I'm going to ask you, Tracy, perhaps you could share that video with us, and then we could post it once we finish this program, post it on our Facebook page as well, just to remind people of what we've spoken about. I'll let you have a drink of water. It's quite warm today. So coming on to Karen.
Hello.
Hi. You're from the Keech Hospice.
Yes.
If you can just maybe go into detail the people that Keech Hospice helps, and
yes,
what support is out there for which type of people, which backgrounds, and
I can give a little bit of perhaps a little bit of an idea actually of what services are available at Keech that people perhaps aren't aware of, and the way in which they can do a self-referral if they're in a situation where they've received a diagnosis of a life-limiting illness. So Keech has recently celebrated its 30th anniversary. And
yes, I remember the elephants. I was there when they were inaugurated, I can say.
Right. Well before my time, I used to add. But so I think it would be interesting for people to, if you like, because I think it would be fair to say, and I don't think I'd be wrong to say, that when you say the word hospice, it conjures up a whole scary image.
Absolutely.
And a building and a place that people don't want to go to because they imagine that it's a place that you go to die and you don't come out of. But there is so much more to Keech Hospice than that, and it's about managing the condition and helping people to live their lives as best as they can and ensure that their quality of life is as good as it can be for them, and also the support for their friends and relatives. So if I could just share a couple of things that people might not be aware of. The first one is we have a wellbeing centre at Keech. When I say wellbeing centre, it offers a variety of services, from private rooms for assessments, for example. It includes an area where we can do blood transfusions for a lot of patients that actually come in to help manage their conditions. And blood tests too, we do at Keech, which people may not know. We have a
well, I certainly didn't know that.
No.
Like you say, the hospice is already associated with the place where you go and you can never come out. This was my thinking as well.
Yeah. And this is part of my role, is to help break down this barrier as well, to get people to come forward more and find out what support's available. But we also have a specially adapted gym where we help patients with physiotherapy to help manage their conditions, so they can have a supported exercise plan, for example, with an occupational therapist at Keech. I haven't used the gym yet myself,
Okay.
but it's air conditioned, so that's a bonus. We also have a fully operational hydrotherapy pool as well, which can be very useful in helping people to manage conditions, whether that's adults or children. And we do, I think I'm right in saying that we do have maybe 1 or 2 schools that take up the option of using those facilities. And it is manned by lifeguards, so, it's all done well. We've got quiet areas as well for complementary therapies. That could be anything from talking therapies to massage, cognitive behavioural therapies, all those sorts of things that help people in addition to what I would call the clinical side of the care. It's all about the whole person and what helps them. We also have a free 24-hour advice line as well for family and carers. So I'm quite happy to share that number if anybody would be interested in that. That's 0808 180 7788. So there is lots more, as well as we also have music therapy and art therapy, which can be really useful in getting people to talk about their feelings, making memories, having conversations, and all those types of things. So there's so much more to it than just the medical side of the patient and looking after them. So yeah, there's lots of things to Keech that actually are.
I'm absolutely grateful that I've invited you on to come to the show today and talk about Keech Hospice, because what you've just described Keech Hospice is totally different to my understanding of what I thought you were all about. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. Like I say, there's a lot of people out there who don't even know these services are available to them.
No.
So perhaps
right.
when we finish, we can share the phone number.
Yes,
and,
we can do. And the website link, because also, very interestingly, there is a virtual tour if you wanted to have a look around on the website, which I can share afterwards. And by the same token, if anybody would like a tour, just to put their mind at rest or find out a bit more from a community perspective, then please feel free to contact me, and I can arrange a tour so that people can physically see what the hospice is like, what the grounds are like, what goes on there, just to help people feel more comfortable and have a better understanding. So more than happy to do that. The other thing that I think is very important to mention as well is that we do have a very good bereavement support service. So if anybody is listening at the moment and is struggling themselves or knows somebody that is going through a bit of a tough time, Keech does offer bereavement support to individuals, I think I've got this right, 18 years and over, that doesn't actually have to have any connection with Keech at all. So they don't have to
So
have
it's open to anyone.
Yeah. And again, I can share that telephone number afterwards as well.
That would be great, yes.
Yeah, because I think that would perhaps be a great help to a great many number of people who just don't know that service is available to them to use for free. So I think that's really important to get that out.
Absolutely. I think, Karen, I'm going to ask you to give us all the details, summarize what you've talked about this afternoon.
There's a lot, isn't there?
It is. And the thing is, like I said, I didn't know that. So can you imagine how many other people out there don't know this kind of services that you're offering? So it will be good for us to put that out there, and people, at least they know that if I'm going through this, I can contact so and I can get that help.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Wow, that is wonderful.
Sorry, Lady Munya, would you like to learn a little bit more about what I'm trying to do in the community? Would that be helpful?
Yes,
would that be helpful? Okay, so I'm really looking here to sort of get involved with as many community groups as is possible. It's a bit like Tracy, really, in that we're trying to engage with as many cultures within Luton and the surrounding areas to try and get the word out there. So in terms of the compassionate community work, I'm really looking for people to join a network. We're trying to develop a network of what we're calling compassionate friends.
Okay.
And by that, I mean people in the communities that can have a little bit more training, a little bit more signposting knowledge around how to help others in the community, so that people have got perhaps somewhere to go initially. So we've developed 2 or 3 workshops to help people start to have these conversations that we were talking about earlier with loved ones, friends, family members. But also alongside that is to develop the upskilling around communication skills and learning a bit more about things like digital legacy, which is how we treat our social media platforms, for example. What do we want done with those when we're no longer here?
That is really an issue, isn't it?
Yes. So I'm really looking for people that might be listening to maybe get in touch with me.
You can put my name
and join me to sort of try and get this network of support going, because what I'm trying to encourage is people to look out for one another and do what I call small acts of kindness to support, become more neighbourly, because I think we've lost a lot of that. The pandemic, I think, helped to bring that a bit more to the fore. But I think we need to get back to perhaps how things used to be, where communities used to know each other really well, and the street and the neighbours all used to know one another and would help one another. So part of this remit is about finding out what's going on in the community, engaging with those people and trying to share that kindness, and also develop this network of help and support that we can across those groups. And this is where Keech is developing some workshops and things free of charge to help people in the community, and to also come out to community groups to help support and deliver things that they think might be helpful to them. So it's a call to action, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, and I think it's really needed at this time. I mean, a lot of people are suffering from mental health issues. And I think that can also lead to somebody having a stroke, which will be a life-threatening illness that they acquire from, there's a lot that's just been going on, and things are still just going on now. So I think what we're trying to achieve is a very good initiative. And I am glad that you are coming to our Luton Afrofest to give out information, so people can come to your store and hand out this information and see. Perhaps we could find another few bodies who want to join and be part of this community, compassionate, what can we call it, carers or
compassionate friends, really. Just
compassionate friends.
Yeah, simple as that. Yes.
I think it's fair to say that me and Karen will talk to anyone.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone about anything?
Yes.
So yeah, we will be there.
Yeah.
I must say, when you say that you need to know what to say sometimes when somebody
Yes.
approaches you, I find that sometimes for myself, I find it difficult. How do you comfort somebody who is grieving?
Yeah.
And I totally don't know where
Yeah.
to find the words. I just end up saying, I'm so sorry, and that's it, really.
Well, do you know what? That's one of the best things that you can actually say. Sometimes you just have to say, I'm really sorry. I don't understand how you're feeling, because everybody's experience is very different from one person to the next in terms of loss and bereavement, isn't it?
Yes,
But I think it's more about just being there for that person. It's being present and in that moment with that person. And it might just mean they just need a hug. So sometimes words aren't really needed. It's just about being in that moment and actually truly listening to that person, which is a skill. And I'm not saying it's easy, because it's not easy. But hopefully with some of the workshops and things that we've got, we can give people some of these skills, or tackle some of these things that they're a little bit frightened of tackling or talking about. So hopefully, in terms of phrases and questions and using body language and listening skills, that's all what we're trying to deliver to the community, to help them be more confident in their conversations. And let's face it, let's be honest, you don't have to be old, you don't have to have a life-limiting illness. It could happen, as Tracy said, to anyone at any time. So it's really, really important that we try to break down these myths and taboos and have these open and honest conversations at the moments when it happens. That could be in the car, driving next to somebody, could be in the supermarket, could be having a cup of coffee. It doesn't have to be, I want to talk to you about death and dying, because
I know, I'll be like, what?
So
you really can't just continue.
No. So so that's what we're looking to sort of try, and longer term plans is try to get involved with local workplaces to give them structure and support for employees and their HR departments, to better support people when they return to work from bereavement, for example, because again, a lot of people don't know what to say. They don't know how to act.
That's the thing. Sorry, my chair keeps dropping down. Let me see. Oh, I don't know what setting I've put it on, but anyway, I just was there. Otherwise, I'm just going to disappear. What is she doing?
So we want to get into employers, schools, all sorts of places, and with a longer term aim of working with the local councils, especially initially with Luton, to sort of get Luton recognised as a compassionate town and a compassionate place to be. And we need to start here, talking to the people in the community. And
it starts with us, isn't it?
It does. Yeah, it does. So it sounds very simple on paper, I know, but as Tracy intimated, it is a real challenge. So these mediums of radio are really vital in reaching a much wider audience much more quickly.
Yes, absolutely. Well, like I said, we are here at Untitled Radio. This is why we are here, actually, to bring people like yourselves to come on air and talk about things that our community had no idea about. What I've already put my hand up. I said I had no idea that this is what happens with yourselves and Keech, and also with Tracy. I was just on the notion that stroke is for old people, which is totally wrong, isn't it?
Completely. But to be fair, before I started working for the Stroke Association, I would have had that same thought process. And particularly childhood stroke was a huge shock to me. It was like, whoa, where did that come from? Where did that come from? Yeah, so
as well.
It's not as common but it does happen. So it's like that first few months of working was a huge, very steep learning curve about all sorts of things that are going on and that are out there. So but although the results of a stroke can be devastating, they're not always inevitable. And one of the things the messages we do want to get across as well is that, just healthy lifestyle, healthy eating, exercise, and regular blood pressure checks can help to address some of the issues that might occur, and also to keep you informed of what's happening with your blood pressure and things like that. So and high degrees of fat or salt in the diet can cause blocked arteries. If you can avoid that, that's amazing. And then just kind of being really realistic in how much you smoke, how much you drink alcohol, those kinds of things. We're not saying give up completely. That's really unrealistic, but just choosing to live a bit healthier can be really helpful.
Well, I must say that I'm one person, I only go to my doctor when I really feel ill and really unwell. I can go for years without going to see my doctor. And I remember one day the nurse rang me and said, you need to come for your yearly health check. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me. Why would I want to come to the clinic? She's like, no, we need to do these checks for you every year, like monitor the blood pressure, like you say, Tracy. But for me, I was younger then, and I'm thinking, I don't need to go to. Yes. Only lately is when I've started to take this thing seriously. So when my GP rings to say, okay, your annual appointment,
you have to come.
Please come in, let's do your blood pressure, let's do your blood, check your sugar levels, and I do go, But I think there's a lot of our young people who have the same idea that I used to have before, that you only go to the doctors when you're really, really feeling unwell. But then it does help in getting checked all the time, just to make sure that everything is okay with yourself.
It's interesting because I hear a lot about I don't go to the GP, but
See, I'm not
I hear that a lot. But what's interesting is you can actually get blood pressure checks at a lot of pharmacies now, and you can also buy them and do them yourselves. So yeah, there's a lot of different. Obviously, look at the reviews, get a good one. But you can also you can kind of self-check, so you don't necessarily have to wait for that appointment.
Yeah. The only thing about self-check for somebody like me, I'm not even sure what I've been looking at, how to read the numbers, especially when you're doing this 100/80, or is it supposed to be like that, or is it too high, or I don't know. So I just go to the GPs nowadays.
Well, that's a good message. That's a good message to promote. Go to the GP, have your health checks. They're really important.
Yeah, and I've seen in other recreational centers like the Luton Inspire Village, the sports village up in Hitchin Way. They have a chair. You can do your own health check. You can actually sit there and do your blood pressure and do your weight, and which I think it's quite a good thing to start introducing in the community, where people start getting used to these things and not just think that it's unnecessary. I don't need that.
Yeah.
Those types of things are a really good idea. I know that Inspire, the centre at Inspire do quite a lot of work with exercise programs for stroke survivors, and we do refer into their programs quite a lot. So, and other things, other health conditions as well. I know that it's an amazing setup. They've got so much equipment, pool, loads of stuff there. So it's a really good place to go.
Yeah.
And if they're promoting that kind of health check as well, you can sit down. What's wrong with that?
It's quite fancy as well. It just attracts you to think, oh, what is that? You want to go and see what it is, and then when you go there, it's got this big screen. You can do everything, and it tells you. I found that was really, really good to have that there.
Does it give you a massage as well?
I don't remember.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Everyone would do it.
Yeah.
I think it does because it's one of those big fancy chairs. So it looks like it will give you a massage, and you have to take off your shoes. So I'm supposing that it will probably massage your feet as well, something like that. And I'll try it next time. I'll let
All
you
right,
know.
you know about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's been quite interesting this afternoon. I mean, I've learned quite a lot, which I'm sure most of our listeners out there have also learned quite a lot. I, for one, I don't know. Sometimes they say lack of knowledge is what will kill you.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely, and I'll give you all the information about where to access information on the Stroke Association website, and we have helplines as well that people can call about anything and everything to do with stroke, and there's loads of information and videos on the website as well and you can go on there and by postcode to help you find local services as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great. That was going to be my last question, really, to say how can people get in touch and where can people get your details. So if we can share that, if you can share that with me, and then I'll post it on our Facebook pages or our social media. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on Saturday, because it looks like we're going to have quite a good turnout. So far, we have tickets registered on Eventbrite are going up to 88 now.
That's brilliant.
So it keeps rising every day. You find there's an increased number. So I'm thinking it's going to be a real good turnout, and it's going. I know you were worried about how do we introduce this conversation at a music festival, but I think the way we're going to do it is like not go up to people and say, "Do you want to talk about death?" And
exactly.
that
might
won't
work.
that wouldn't go down so well. So, well, the thing is, we have a variety of exhibitors on the day. We have people from the Luton Sexual Health. So they're going to be having their stall there as well, talking about where people can find help if you ever need anything to do with sexual health. There's also the Total Wellbeing. They're also coming. I think Total Wellbeing is part of Luton Active, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're also coming. They're going to be talking about mental health issues, giving out information. This is why I said, don't worry about that. We need you there. The whole aim of this event, truly, to be honest, is to hand out information. And for my kind of people, to get them to come to events like this, you have to throw in something that they like in there.
Right.
So the music.
so food and music.
Yes,
that would draw them out.
I must admit, it's helping to pull me in as well. To be fair.
Yeah, that would draw them out, and then whilst we bring the music and the food, we also tell them about other things that you can.
So we're tricking them, really.
Tricking them, yeah.
We've done the homework in the past, and the only way we've managed to get out all this information it is trying to include something that they like to do. Like in the past, we've done football tournaments. So there would be a great turnout of people playing in the tournament. I mean, teams coming from all across Bedfordshire, even Stevenage, sometimes Reading, sometimes Ipswich. So we will have a huge crowd, and we will invite people like yourselves, Terence Higgins Trust, Recovering College. We find that those conversations are easier when they are in a sort of a relaxed atmosphere.
Yeah.
Than just coming up and say, okay, we're going to talk about this now, and that's it. In terms of like, I don't know, it's just how we are, I suppose.
We can work with that.
Yeah.
Food, music, and everything else.
Well, thank you very much, Tracy and Karen. I really appreciate taking the time to come and have this.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yes, welcome. Yes, thank you for the invite. Thank you.
And I think we will be from time to time asking you to come back. And like you said, we need to carry on this conversation, start talking about stuff that we don't talk about often.
Yes.
So if we bring you back again another time, we choose another topic to talk about. And then I'm sure gradually it will be easier to have these conversations in the end.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So, to all our listeners, thank you very much for this afternoon. And I want to say that we will be sharing information on our Facebook page and also our website about the Stroke Association and also about the Keech Hospice.
Yeah.
You will find all their details there. And if you need anything that you're not sure of, please, my number is there. Message me, and I will direct you to who to speak to, whether Tracy or Karen, and they will be able to show you in the right direction. So with that, I must say, keep dehydrated, because story of everybody's life in the UK this week is too hot. But anyway, let's enjoy the weather while it lasts, and stay safe and stay blessed. And see you on Saturday.
See you.
Yay.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
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 World Cargo International, the experts in shipping to the Caribbean, with weekly sailings to Kingston, Jamaica, and fortnightly sailings to Trinidad, Barbados, Dominica, St. Lucia, and more. We can ship almost anything from personal effects to excess baggage to cars and vans and plant machinery. We can even supply containers and barrels direct to your home address. And collection is simple too. We simply come to you. World Cargo International, taking the hassle out of shipping. Pop in and see us at 55A Princess Street, Luton, LU1 580. Call us on 01582 733 711 or see us online at worldcargoint.com.